Hi and welcome to our final presentation. Today we're going to talk about how to get people to like you as a public speaker, because that is so important for us as public speakers, for our audience to connect with us. And so we want to introduce that topic to you today. I'm Brooke Weenig.
I'm Elizabeth Nelson.
I'm Ashtin Markowski.
I'm Christopher Henriksen.
And I'm Ashlie Lewis.
We're excited to be with you today, and you'll be hearing a variety of topics that will help you to become a better public speaker. So first we're going to start off with Christopher and connecting with our audience.
All right, so to start off, how many of us have been in a classroom where all the professor does is put up the PowerPoint and read what's on the slides for 50 minutes? I know I have, and it actually makes it really difficult for me to pay attention in my nutrition class because I feel like I can just read those PowerPoints on my own time and not have to come to class. I may have missed class once. It's just a possibility. So with that, in our public speaking class, we have learned about many tools that we can use to add and create variety to the way we present. For example, when we were doing our persuasion speeches, we learned about the acronym TESS, which is share a testimonial, an example, a story, and a statistic. But some of the things that we want to talk to you today about is having confidence, humor, sharing stories, and first impressions. So to start off, I want to use an example using some condiments. We're going to relate this to the variety that we're going to have in our presentation. So to start off, I'll just have somebody, let's have Elizabeth, grab this. She'll be holding barbecue sauce. Come on up, Brooke. We'll have you be ketchup. Ashtin, you could be relish. Ashlie, if you'll come, I don't actually have yours. Yours is mustard. We'll get to that in a second. So, if you were hosting a barbecue, and say you had hamburgers and hot dogs, you'd want to make sure that you had enough condiments to meet everybody's palatable tastes. So, for me, if I'm creating a hot dog, I like the standard ketchup and mustard. And as you can see, there's no mustard, so I'd be sorely upset by that. But when I have a hamburger, I do want barbecue sauce, so I'd be good there. This can be likened to having a variety in our presentations, in that if all we have is a presentation on a PowerPoint, it's like only having your ketchup. You know, that'll reach some of your audience members, but it won't necessarily meet everyone. Thanks, guys. So having said that, we're now going to turn the time over for first impressions by Brooke, and we'll go from there.
First impressions are everything. Can you imagine if I just sat up here and played with my hair and like did whatever I wanted and just kind of was trying to talk to you about something super serious? It wouldn't work. How we present ourselves as speakers is crucial. This YouTube video is going to show you just how important first impressions are.
Yeah, come on.
AmeriQuest Mortgage, proud sponsor of the NFL.
So as you can see, first impressions can either be really good or really bad. And as a public speaker, if we don't have good first impressions, our audience won't even want to listen to us. So the key is establishing credibility and making it meaningful from the beginning. Because studies have shown within the first 30 seconds, people make judgments off of who we are and what we have to offer. In fact, there was a study done throughout the United States on hiring managers. They found that 3/4 of all hiring managers decide whether they're going to hire you or not off of the first 30 seconds of meeting you. Imagine that. You only have 30 seconds to impress somebody. And as a public speaker, it's the same thing. If we don't impress our audience or strike them in a professional manner, they're not going to believe anything we say. or anything we do. So it's crucial for us as public speakers to be able to speak clearly and to speak with a good first impression. Now, the key with making a good first impression is confidence, but it's also showing that you know who you are and what you represent. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said that who you are is speaking so loud, I can't even hear what you say. So as public speakers, we need to present ourselves and who we are in a powerful yet confident way. So how do we do that? How do we go about that? And why is it so important? It is so important because in the business world or in any public speaking setting, we have to develop credibility instantly with our publics or with whoever we're talking to. Because if we don't, people won't want to listen to us. They won't care what we say. Rather, they're just going to kind of toss us off to the side of, oh, doesn't really matter, that public speaker isn't confident enough or isn't making a good impression on me. And we don't want you to be in that boat. So today we're going to talk about one of the most powerful ways to make a good first impression, and that is confidence. In order to have good confidence, you have to have a certain set of skills, and those skills may not even be throughout your whole speech. Rather, it'll be within that first 30 seconds. So I'm going to talk about right now how to make those 30 seconds killer, awesome, so that you are confident. So I'm going to invite two of my friends to come up here, Christopher and Elizabeth. Come on up here. These two are going to present good and bad examples of being confident on stage as a public speaker. We're going to show to you that how crucial the little minor things that you do as a public speaker really will make a difference on how people see you and treat you as a credible source. So Elizabeth here will be our bad example for the day, and then we have Christopher here that will be our good example. First is posture. To be confident as a speaker, you have to have a good presence. Now, Elizabeth here, she's kind of slouchy. She doesn't look like she's very confident. If she started talking to you, you'd probably be like, this girl doesn't really know what she's talking about. Whereas Christopher is confident. He's got his shoulders back. His stance is centered with his shoulders. So as a speaker, you want to be able to connect to the audience that way because they need to trust the source that they're listening to. Secondly, we have gestures. Now, she's kind of making these timid gestures, kind of looking at the ground, not making eye contact with the audience, which is also crucial. And Christopher here, he's confident and he's using his hands in a very, very genuine, calm way to connect with his audience, but also to not make his audience feel like he doesn't know what he's talking about. Third is eye contact. Now, if Elizabeth here is just looking at the floor or looking up at the ceiling, your audience won't be able to connect with you, nor will they treat you as a credible source. Whereas Christopher here is looking directly at the audience in their faces, not staring any single one person down, but taking time and looking at each individual face to connect with them and to make them feel as if he's a confident being. Fourth is to breathe and to relax, to not be stressed as a speaker, because if we're stressed, no one will treat us like a confident and good source. So here we have Elizabeth that's shy, is very, very timid and stressed. Whereas we have Christopher here that is calm and cool and relaxed. As a speaker, you'll be much more likely to connect to your audience in that way. And they will see you as a confident source. Thank you, guys. The last step is to pray. And praying helps us to connect with a higher power that not only gives us confidence, but gives us those first impressions that we can't control sometimes. We can't always control what the audience thinks of us, but we can control what we do to prepare. And prayer is the best way to do that. And so I invite you and I promise you, as you pray and as you do these minor things to change up how you present yourself as a speaker, not only will you make a better first impression, but you'll have more confidence as a speaker. So those are two very simple tips to make you a powerful speaker. We will now turn the time over to Ashtin, who will teach us how to make good stories.
Telling a story is another great way that you can relate to your audience and get them to like you. In a speech, stories can be used to grab listeners' attention, build bridges with diverse audiences, illustrate key points, and teach principles without sounding too preachy. There are two types of stories that you can tell in your speech. A story that you have lived through, or you could borrow a story. A story that you have lived through can be easier to tell because you know exactly what happened, and you can also lengthen it or shorten it depending on how long you want it to be. But however, it might not always fit the subject that you want to speak about. If you borrow a story, It could be a really good story, but it could also be harder to tell. When you tell a story, it is important to paint the picture and make sure that the audience knows exactly what's going on in your story so they can visualize it for themselves. It is important to avoid distracting mannerisms and pay attention to vocal variety, and these things include rate, pitch, pronunciation, volume, inflection, and word choice. Word choice is really important because depending on what you say, you can get your audience to think different things. For example, people might think differently of a product that was 75% lean versus a product that was 25% fat, just as they would think differently of someone's height if you asked how tall is he versus how short is he. It is also important to use strong words instead of weak words in your presentation and your story. So examples of this would be using when instead of if, and using will instead of try. You could also use power words such as because and the facts say, because this makes you more believable. Here's an example of a story borrowed that can be used to convey a message. A professor began his class by holding up a glass with some water in it. He held it up for all to see and he asked his students, "How much do you think this weighs?" 50 grams, 100 grams, 125 grams, the students guessed. "Well, I won't actually know unless I weigh it," said the professor. "But my question is, what would happen if I held it up for a few minutes?" "Nothing," said the students. "Okay, what would happen if I held it up for an hour?" "Your arm would start to ache," said a student. "You're right. What would happen if I held it up for a day?" "Your arm could go numb, you could have severe muscle stress and paralysis and have to go to the hospital for sure," ventured one student, and all the students laughed. "Very good. But during all of this, did the weight of the glass change?" asked the professor. "No," was the answer. "Then what caused the arm ache and the muscle stress?" said the professor. The students were puzzled. "What do I need to do now to get out of the pain?" "Put the glass down," said a student. "Exactly," said the professor. Life's problems are a lot like this. Think of them in your head for a little bit, and they don't seem that bad. Think of them for a little longer, and they begin to ache. Think of them even more, and keep it in your head for longer, and they begin to paralyze you. You will not be able to do anything. While it is important to think about the problems and the challenges that you are going through, it is even more important to remember to put them down at the end of every day before you go to sleep. That way, you wake up less stressed and strong and ready for the day and whatever might come your way. So, when you start your day, remember to tell yourself to put the glass down today. Now we will hear some examples of what not to do when telling a story.
Hi. When you're telling a story, you don't want to go into too much detail, because if you get carried away with the detail, then you won't get to your point and it'll just go a lot longer than you expected and people will get bored.
When you're telling a story, make sure your story is relevant. As an audience member, there's nothing worse than hearing a big long story and realizing it has nothing to do with what the speaker was talking about.
If you're going to share a story that's funny, be sure to allow time for the audience to actually hear the punchline before you start laughing uncontrollably. Nobody likes to listen to somebody laugh when they don't know what's funny.
And finally, you never want to make the audience be thinking about something that they shouldn't be thinking about. You want to help them focus and paint a picture for them. This is a story. They want to hear the story. Add details. If she was wearing red high heels and pearls, you better say it.
Now, Elizabeth will speak about overcoming fear.
Overcoming fear is one of the most useful things we'll ever learn in life. Everyone experiences fear. Fear can either push us forward or pull us back. And it can be a big motivator in life. Fear, as a public speaker, everyone experiences it. And so I'm going to share with you 6 tips that can help you be a better speaker by overcoming fear. The first one is visualizing success. When you have that end goal in mind of, smoothly speaking a speech, telling a speech very smoothly, it can, you can have that end goal where you can just visualize that, successfully speaking. And many times we think of all the mistakes we'll make, and we don't really picture that perfect speech that we'll give. And so by visually picturing it, then we can have a smooth speech. The second one is projecting confidence. If you're confident, people will be more likely to listen to you, and people will think you know what you're talking about, even if you don't. And people will, it'll be interesting to listen to you. The third one is let the butterflies fly in formation. Many people experience butterflies. In fact, I think everyone experiences butterflies, that fear in your stomach. And so if you rise to the occasion and you visualize that success that we talked about, then you can smoothly, give your speech, and fear can be your big motivator. The fourth one is practice. We always hear the saying, practice makes perfect. Well, that is true. The more we practice, the smoother we'll be, the more confident we'll be, and the easier it will be to visualize that success, that perfect end goal, the perfect speech we give. The fifth one is don't dwell on past failures. A lot of times, like I was saying, we make mistakes and we dwell on them. We focus on that until we mess up again and again. And so if we move on from those failures, then we can have a better end to our presentation. And as human beings, we learn from our mistakes. We rise to the occasion once we once we forget those mistakes, and we can be stronger public speakers. As a performance major, I play the harp, and during each concert, there isn't one concert that's perfect. I always make mistakes, but I can't focus on them or else I will make more mistakes. And so if I forget about those mistakes or learn from them, then I can have a great, I can just forget about them and I can have a smooth ending, and so people won't even notice I make mistakes. The sixth tip is to pray. And Brooke mentioned this earlier in her presentation, but it is very, very important. So if we practice and prepare to the best of our abilities, then we can pray and ask Heavenly Father for divine help. He can calm our nerves, and we can know exactly what to say, and we can have a better speech. Our speech can go more smoothly, and we can be stronger presenters. And so these are just 6 tips that will help you overcome fear and make you be a better public speaker.
The age-old saying, laughter is the best medicine, is true. A potentially bogus website called Psychology Today claims there is evidence that laughter lowers blood pressure, lowers blood glucose, dulls pain, alleviates stress and anxiety, and can improve your overall well-being. That seems viable enough. So, if humor can lift your body and mind, it can also add a lift to your public speaking efforts. Humor can break up the monotony that speeches can sometimes fall into, and add attention-grabbing moments throughout. Dr. Douglas Gibb, a BYU speech professor, offers some humor hints to practice and develop so you can successfully pull off humor in any public speaking situation. So these are his 7 humor hints. Number 1, don't tell a joke that's not clearly related to the point of the talk. Make sure that your joke fits the situation and don't tell too many of them. Ensure that your joke is so on topic that it fits in naturally with your entire presentation. Number 2, humor often comes from a quick, unusual turn of events. Humor usually relies on a surprise finish in order to be funny, so tell it quick, speak at a rapid pace, and do not mess up the punchline. Number 3, don't laugh at your own joke. Wait until your audience reacts and laughs before you even crack a smile. If you're giggling and cracking up throughout the entire thing, it'll draw more attention to you than to the actual story that you're telling. So just make sure that you don't laugh at your own joke, and especially don't laugh at your punchline or else it won't be funny. Number 4, sharing an embarrassing experience is a great aid in creating ties between the speaker and the audience. If you are able to tell an embarrassing story, it makes you seem just like them. And if you can talk about that in a humorous way, then it'll help your audience really connect to you and they'll be more likely to be open to what you have to say. Number 5, remember that an appreciation of humor does not mean liking every joke that you hear. This is helpful so that you can listen to something when you're reacting to an audience or something and you can hear what they say, and regardless of how off-topic or offensive it may be, you can see the humor in it and you can react appropriately. Number 6, humor never hurts, embarrasses, nor humiliates another person. If you have a quick wit and you come up with a response really fast, refrain from sharing it if you're afraid that it might put you in danger of hurting somebody else. Number 7, the purpose of telling a humorous story is not to attract attention to yourself. The more important purpose is to attract attention to the speech you're actually giving. So I just want to show you a video clip really quick. And it is actually from the Oscars a couple years ago. And this is when Jennifer Lawrence won an Oscar. And she walked up onto the stage, and as she was walking up, she tripped and fell. And so this is actually an interview from after that Oscars experience in which she reacts to everything that they're saying.
We will start with 190 and go to 123.
This isn't like an auction, right?
Yes.
You guys are gonna take it away.
The fall on the way up to the stage.
Was that on purpose?
Was it a fall? What happened?
I don't. What do you mean? What happened? Look at my dress. I tried to walk upstairs in this dress. That's what happened. What went through my mind and I fell down? A bad word that I can't say. That starts with F.
You look so great today. Great dress. What was the process of getting ready? How many people helped you?
Oh, what was the process? I don't know. I just woke up and tried on the dress and it fit, thank God. And then I took a shower and I don't know what I was. That's what I did. And then I got my hair and makeup done. And then I came to the Oscars.
So Jennifer is a great example of using humor to help out in any situation. She wasn't offended by any questions she was asked during the interview, and she was able to answer them in a funny way. And she put all the blame on herself. She didn't blame anybody else. She didn't make fun of anybody else. She put the embarrassment all on herself, which helped her seem very human and helped her really connect as she spoke. She also gave her jokes with a quick wit and a fast punch. So she used a lot of the strategies that we have talked about today. And so Andrew Carnegie said, where there is little laughter, there is little success. So if you're looking to have success in your public speaking, practice these hints. Practice these humor hints in day-to-day conversation and look for opportunities to use them. So when you're presented in a public speaking opportunity, you're able to fill the room with laughter.
Thank you for listening to our final presentation on how to project confidence through stories, humor, and creating great first impressions. We know that as you apply these tools, that you will be able to communicate and connect with your audience more fully. We promise that as you practice these principles, and as you go out into the real world, that you will find not only success, but enjoyment through the experiences that you get to share through speaking to other people in the community. Thank you.